Most people will never figure this out. They'll go through life believing that being smart means memorizing facts, quoting books, getting perfect grades. And on the surface, that makes sense. But then you start noticing something strange. You see people with degrees making terrible decisions. You see people with high IQs fall apart under pressure. You see smart people constantly stuck in the same problems. And at some point, a question hits you. If they're so smart, why do they keep messing up? Here's the truth most people never realize. Being smart isn't about knowing more. It's about seeing differently. It's about thinking in a way that cuts through noise, emotion, and illusion, while everyone else is reacting on autopilot. And once you develop that way of thinking, you don't just become smarter, you become dangerous, calm, precise, unshakable. The kind of person who walks into a room and shifts the energy without saying much at all. No ego, no noise, just quiet control. Let's break it down. 1. Don't argue to win. Ask to understand. Most people argue like they're in a competition. They want to win, to prove a point, to dominate the conversation. But here's what they don't realize. The moment you try to win an argument, you've already lost influence. Because people don't change their minds when they feel attacked. They shut down. Smart people understand this. So instead of arguing, they get curious. They ask questions like, what makes you see it that way? What outcome are you actually trying to get? Have you ever looked at it from this angle? Notice the difference. There's no ego, no pressure, just calm curiosity. And something powerful happens when you do this. People open up. And when people open up, they reveal the real reason behind what they think. That's where influence lives. You don't need to defeat people. You need to understand them. Because once you understand someone, guiding their thinking becomes effortless. 2. Don't obsess over moments. Zoom out and see the system. Most people treat every mistake like it defines them. One bad presentation, I'm terrible at this. One rejection, I'm not good enough. One failure, I always mess things up. They personalize everything. Smart people don't. They zoom out. They stop asking, why did this happen to me? And start asking, what pattern created this? They treat life like a system, not a drama. Every outcome becomes data. Every mistake becomes feedback. Every failure becomes a signal pointing to something that can be adjusted. And that changes everything. Because when you see life as a system, nothing is final. It's all just information. And while others are stuck overthinking the past, you're already improving the future. 3. Filter everything through one question. Is this in my control? Most people are exhausted for one reason. They spend energy on things they can't control. Other people's opinions, random events, things that already happened, things that haven't even happened yet. And the more they try to control the uncontrollable, the more frustrated they become. Smart people don't play that game. They simplify everything down to one question. Is this in my control? If yes, they act. If no, they let it go. No overthinking, no emotional spiral, no wasted energy. That calm, grounded presence you see in high performers, it's not because their life is easier. It's because their focus is sharper. They don't try to control the world, they control themselves. And that changes how the world responds to them. 4. Get comfortable with silence. Most people are afraid of silence. The moment things go quiet, they rush to fill it with words, with jokes, with explanations, anything to avoid that uncomfortable space. But smart people, they sit in it. They don't rush. They listen. They observe. Because silence reveals things noise hides. When you stop talking, you start noticing. Tone, body language, what's being said and what's not being said. And here's the shift. The less you react, the more control you have. Silence makes people lean in. It makes your words carry more weight. And it gives you something most people never have. Time to think before you respond. 5. Don't react, observe. This is where everything comes together. Someone says something rude. Most people react instantly.
emotion takes over and they respond without thinking. But smart people pause, just for a moment. They breathe, they step back mentally, they observe what's actually happening. And in that tiny pause, they gain something powerful: clarity. Because when you're not reacting, you can see the situation for what it is, not what it feels like. You notice patterns, you read intentions, you understand dynamics, and that gives you leverage. Reacting is automatic, observing is intentional, and intention is where power lives. Final thoughts. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room. You don't need to know everything. You don't need a perfect memory or a perfect record. You just need to think differently. Ask instead of argue. Zoom out instead of panic. Focus only on what you control. Embrace silence. Observe before reacting. That's it. Simple, but not easy. Because most people won't do this. They'll keep reacting, keep overthinking, keep draining their own energy. But if you build these habits, something changes. You become calmer, sharper, harder to shake, and eventually unstoppable. If this hits something inside you, don't just scroll past it. Comment "quiet power" if you're ready to build this mindset. Because while the world chases attention, you're learning how to control it. And that's a different level entirely.